Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for coming today. I'm Matt Gordon. I work for the Allegheny County Conservation District. I'm the regulatory team director. Today I'm going to provide a basic overview of the Chapter 105 Dam Safety and Waterway Management Program, a program we have via delegation agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. This is an introductory presentation. It's meant for the general public. There's no prerequisite knowledge. The topics I'm going to cover include scope and purpose of the regulations, the why they exist, go through some definitions, an overview of statewide permit requirements, and I'll also be discussing the conservation district's delegation in more detail. Do be sure to check out our website, ACCDPA.org, for other presentations and webinars. It's under events and education on our homepage. We also have some great webinars from our program team covering stream health, soil, and agriculture. During the month of June, there was an entire 7-webinar series on stormwater and introduction to stream health, and that's all available on the website. During the presentation, any questions you may have, feel free to enter into the chat. I will take a few questions at the end. My colleague, Mo Copeland, will facilitate the question and answer at the end. Okay, let's get started. Title 25 Environmental Protection of the Pennsylvania Code contains the Commonwealth's environmental regulations. The Title 25 is organized by chapter. For example, oil and gas regulations are outlined in Chapter 78. Erosion control regulations, another ACCD delegation, are outlined in Chapter 102. Chapter 105 Dam Safety and Waterway Management regulates obstructions and encroachments. More to come on the definition soon. But essentially, this chapter regulates construction in streams, 100-year floodways, wetlands, and other bodies of water. The authority for these regulations, the actual laws that were passed by the state legislature, come from the Pennsylvania Clean Streams Law and the Dam Safety and Encroachments Act. The Clean Streams Law, passed in 1937 and amended since, has the purpose to preserve and improve the purity of waters of the Commonwealth for public health, animal and aquatic life, industrial consumption, and recreation. The Dam Safety and Encroachments Act, enacted in 1978, has the purpose to provide for the regulation and safety of dams, reservoirs, and water obstructions and encroachments. So what are the purposes of these regulations? Comprehensive regulation of dams, reservoirs, and water obstructions and encroachments to protect health, safety, welfare, and property of people. Additionally, to protect natural resources, carrying capacity of water courses, and water quality for the streams throughout the Commonwealth. The PA Constitution under Article 27 states that the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of natural, aesthetic, and scenic values of the environment. Chapter 105 is part of the suite of regulations that exist to preserve this constitutional right. So what's the scope? How are these purposes accomplished? The regulatory scope of 105 includes water obstructions and encroachments located in, along, or across, projecting into a water course, floodway, or body of water, whether temporary or permanent. By regulating these activities, the Commonwealth and conservation districts, including Allegheny if they have a delegation, seek to protect water quality, carrying capacity of streams, and protect people, property, and the environment. So we've heard the term several times now. It's time to really get into the definitions. Water obstructions or encroachments. Here they are. Anything that would change the course, current, or cross-section of a body of water. All water obstructions are encroachments. Some examples are listed: culverts, fill, walls, etc. However, the definitions and the regulatory scope also covers things that are strictly encroachments, excavations, clearing, grubbing, dredging. They're not structures, obstructions, things that take up space, but it does alter the normal stream morphology and changes the course, current, or cross-section of a watercourse, floodway, or body of water. More definitions. I really often hear, and I'm sure my coworkers do too, I have a ditch on my property, or there's a runoff channel along the road, there's a dry creek bed. There seems to be, a wide variety of views of what really constitutes a stream in Pennsylvania. But from the perspective of regulatory purposes, there is a definition of a stream. Chapter 105 has a one-word definition, watercourse. Watercourse is further defined as channel or conveyance of surface water, having defined bed and banks, whether natural or artificial, with perennial or intermittent flow. I think we would all agree that the picture on the right, this higher gradient mountain stream, people would agree pretty much universally that that's a stream. However, these features are also streams per Pennsylvania definitions. There's defined bed and bank, conveyance of water. Maybe these are natural, maybe these are man-made. These aren't particularly aesthetically pleasing streams. They're not recreationally important or large, but they are streams per the 105 definition. Again, the regulated definition of streams is very broad. Finally, last definition, wetlands. We often get questions on whether or not a property contains wetlands, or here there are some cattails in my yard. I don't think it's a wetland though. There are specific indicators and methodologies for determining if an area is wetlands that have been developed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and they're geographically specific. Western PA is in the Eastern Mountains and Piedmont region. 3 specific metrics, soils, vegetation, and hydrology, are evaluated. A wetland area must have, in normal circumstances, positive primary indicators for all 3 of these metrics in order to be considered a regulated wetland area. This figure helps demonstrate the areas of a stream that Chapter 105 regulates. The channel itself from top of bank to top of bank, and the 100-year floodway. Any obstruction or encroachment in this area, again, anything that would change the course, current, or cross-section of that area, would be regulated by 105. Not shown in this diagram are wetlands, which are regulated regardless of proximity to a stream or flood zone. They can be upland away from any other water feature. Okay, so we've discussed scope, purpose, definitions. Let's dig a little more into purpose. Why would the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Conservation District, by the delegation agreement, regulate obstructions and encroachments? We'll look at the Conservation District 105 delegation through this more focused lens later. So first, some quick review. The purpose of the regulations is to protect health, safety, and property of people, as well as water quality and environmental rights. Dams are giant examples of water obstructions. Did you know that 2 of the 10 costliest dam failures in U.S. history have been in Pennsylvania? And they're not number 8 and 10 or something like that, but in the entire United States, the number 1 and number 6 costliest dam failures have been in Pennsylvania. The Johnstown flood in 1889 remains the costliest dam failure in terms of human life lost in the history of the United States. 2,200 people lost their lives and approximately $500 million in damage in 2016 dollars. The site of the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club Dam on the South Fork of the Conemaugh River is now a national memorial you can visit. The other costly dam failure in Pennsylvania, number 6, the Austin Dam in Potter County. This concrete dam, built to serve a paper mill, failed on September 30th, 1911, costing 78 Pennsylvanians their lives. Today, you can actually hike through the Freeman Run Valley, through the ruins of the concrete dam. I took this picture several years ago while in Potter County, and it's within a 76-acre memorial park. Really surprisingly, there wasn't a lot of legislative action after the Johnstown Dam failure on the South Fork of the Conemaugh River. The Dam Safety and Encroachments Act was passed in 1978 after the Austin Dam failure, and that was 1911, and there was another dam failure near Johnstown on Laurel Run that cost 40 lives in 1977. So historically, it's extremely well documented and established that poorly built or maintained water obstructions, especially dams, can cause extreme detriment to the safety of people, property, and the environment, and hence the need for standards and regulation of water obstructions and encroachments. Now, these are extreme examples, so what about smaller streams, smaller obstructions and encroachments? Poorly designed or illegal obstructions can have substantial local effects. The photo on the left shows a stream running overland due to a clogged culvert in Allegheny County. Near the 45-mile-per-hour sign at the top left of the photograph, there's a clogged culvert. It's undersized and periodically becomes clogged with debris. At low flow, when the culvert is clogged, the stream runs along the roadside and road shoulder. At higher flows and significant storm events, it floods the actual driving lane. There's been a fatality at this site. There have been several severe injuries from car accidents. So clearly, I mean, this is a small stream you can jump across, a few hundred acres drainage area. There's ongoing private and public litigation involving this site. On the right side, a temporary bridge crossing that clogged overnight. The stream during the heavy rains backed up, flooded around the temporary bridge. To my knowledge, nobody was injured in this heavy storm last year. Some construction supplies were lost, and there's substantial pollution from floodwaters sweeping over an active construction site. So even obstructions and encroachments on much smaller streams on smaller scales than dam failures can have really substantial damage to property and the environment and threaten health and safety of people if they're not done properly. As I mentioned in the introduction, the Conservation District has a delegation agreement with the State Department of Environmental Protection to administer certain aspects of the Chapter 105 program. Our current delegation agreement was signed in December of 2016. The delegation agreement is a formal document outlining responsibilities of ACCD and DEP. The state DEP maintains concurrent power and duties to conduct responsibilities of permitting and enforcement for delegated programs. Essentially, the Conservation District's obligations cover 3 areas: permit reviews, complaint and permitted site inspections, and outreach and education. I'll spend the rest of the webinar looking over these 3 areas of our delegation agreement. We know that Chapter 105 regulates obstructions and encroachments. And under 105.11 permit requirements, broadly speaking, a person cannot construct, operate, maintain, abandon a dam, obstruction, or encroachment without first obtaining a written permit from the department. Now, water obstructions and encroachments come in a wide variety of project types: bridges, utilities, dams, docks, marinas, retaining walls, flood control projects, the list goes on and on. The regulations are organized in subchapters, and they set forth requirements for different project types. For example, subchapter C covers culverts and bridges. In this chapter, specific requirements for designing, permitting, and building culvert and bridge crossings is covered. Subchapter I covers commercial dredging operations. In this chapter, specific requirements for designing, permitting, and conducting extraction of sand, gravel, or other minerals within a river or 105 regulated area is covered. The Harrisburg office, central office of DEP, the Bureau of Waterways, Engineering and Wetlands, Division of Dam Safety, they review dam permits for the entire Commonwealth. Regional DEP offices, Bureau of Waterways, Engineering and Wetlands, review joint permit applications and certain general permits. In the joint permit with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Corps is the federal entity that regulates discharge of fill material to waters of the U.S. under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. So we are in the Southwest Regional Office, headquartered in Pittsburgh, and it covers 8 southwestern Pennsylvania counties. Certain mining and oil and gas DEP offices will review 105 permits related to mining and oil and gas for their respective industries. Under our delegation, we review a subset of Chapter 105 general permits, the general permits 1 through 9. I'll focus more on those now. Subchapter L outlines DEP's authority to develop and issue general permits for projects that are similar in nature and that can be adequately regulated with standardized specifications and conditions. So to receive acknowledgement to use a general permit, an applicant provides information that they meet all standardized specifications and conditions for a project to be covered. This is the list of the 105 general permits that ACCD would receive, review, acknowledge, and inspect under our delegation. As you can see, each general permit covers a specific project type: docks and ramps, intake-outtake structures, minor road crossings, etc. Across all of these permits, there are some conditions that apply uniformly. For example, all permits have a condition barring in-stream work from March 1st to June 15th in streams that are stocked with trout by the PA Fish and Boat Commission. The state, through angler dollars, spends money and invests in trout fishing opportunities. The permits bar in-stream disturbance during that time. Also, all permits need to develop and implement an erosion and sediment control plan that's approved by the local conservation district to minimize accelerated erosion during the project. That's across all permits. In addition to the uniform permit conditions, each individual general permit has specific conditions to the activity. For examples, the GP5 utility crossing has a condition that for utilities that are placed under streams, they must have at least 3 feet of minimum cover from the top of the utility to the stream bed. In the event of a heavy storm and any down cutting in the stream bed, the extra cover provides a safety buffer so the utility isn't damaged by the storm. Also, environmentally, whatever is in the utility would not leak into surface waters. The GP7 minor road crossing permit, for example, cannot be used for culverts or bridges where there's over 1 square mile drainage area. The culvert, if one was proposed, cannot have a smaller diameter than the bank full width of the stream. Also, it can't be used in areas where a FEMA flood insurance rate map has established flood zones and flood elevations. So these are conditions that are specific in this example to the GP7 that would disqualify a culvert, bridge, or road crossing from coverage under the GP7 permit. In these instances, you could still do that activity with a permit, but a joint permit would be required. And when that's needed, a more intense hydraulic analysis of the bridge and routing different intensity storms would be performed. Generally, the components of a general permit submission include application form, location map, project description and purpose narrative, site drawings, E&S plans, and a threatened and endangered species search. If the proposed project were to impact wetlands, a wetland delineation must be provided. So once received, once we get a permit package in our office, our reviewer would review the proposed activity, the drawings, the specifications, the cross sections against the standardized and uniform conditions to evaluate whether or not it could qualify for GP coverage. If it does not, the applicant must seek either a joint permit, another general permit, or a dam permit in some cases. The next part of our delegation I'll talk about is our complaint and permitted site inspections. During permitted site inspections, we're looking to make sure that the conditions are being followed, the E&S plan is being followed during construction. For complaint sites, we first have to evaluate whether or not there is any 105 violation occurring and what those violations are and detail them. If there were no violations in either case, we provide written notice with an inspection report stating as much. If there are violations, we provide written notice to the responsible party with a formal inspection report and work towards voluntary compliance to have the issues addressed. If voluntary compliance cannot be reached, we work with the regional DEP office on various enforcement strategies to bring the site into compliance. I'll just walk through a few examples of 105 inspection sites that our office has been involved with over the years. So the picture on the left shows a complaint we received about an undersized culvert and bridge crossing. See on the middle left, there is a 24-inch smooth line corrugated plastic pipe underneath the riprap and the wooden footbridge. The problem is at high flows, it clogs and it directs the stream to flood an adjacent parking lot that's off to the right in the photograph. So during heavy rains, this thing clogged and flooded a building and their parking lot. This was not permitted. We wouldn't permit something like this. Somebody proposed this, it wouldn't pass muster. It is an obstruction, right? It's right in the stream channel and it's causing property damage, the parking lot and building, safety and environmental issues. So we did an inspection, we met with the owner and explained their obligations, gave them a written inspection report detailing compliance measures. In a scenario like this, the typical ask is to remove the obstruction and stabilize the area. And once this is completed, if the responsible party, the property owner desires, they can apply for a permit and build the bridge accordingly. So the owner decided to remove the crossing. The photo on the right is during that removal. They already have they just got the pipe and the bridge out of there. They widened the channel a little bit on the right and then placed the riprap on the bank. So they removed everything. They worked with us to get this accomplished within 6 weeks. They responded voluntarily. There was no financial penalty assessed. The owner decided not to come back and permit a bridge crossing at this location. This is another complaint, but an entirely different project type than the last example. In this instance, a property owner cleared a substantial amount of land located in the floodway and floodplain of a large stream in Allegheny County. The intent was to fill the floodplain and floodway to grade with the road. I'm standing on the road on the picture to the left looking towards the stream. So fill was being end dumped. The idea was to fill that whole area up to the stream. At the end of that, there's a building pad for development next to a busy road. Similar to the last case, there was no permit obtained. Although it's not in the stream, remember 105 regulates 100-year floodways as well. And the fill is an obstruction of the 100-year floodway, so that gives us a regulatory hook. Also, clearing and grubbing up to the edge of the stream is an encroachment activity and regulated by 105. The clearing and grubbing, there's clearly a pollution concern, loss of riparian habitats, some environmental issues, and for public safety and carrying capacity of streams, I mean, this was going to be thousands of cubic feet of floodway and floodplain that was filled in, which means that during flood conditions, floodwater energy cannot dissipate. It would negatively impact other properties. Similar to the last complaint, we met with the owner, explained their obligations, provided a formal inspection report. Eventually, after about 6 months, several inspections, and some enforcement escalation, the owner removed all the fill in the floodway, stabilized the disturbance, and did not seek a permit for the same activity in the future. Given the back and forth and initial inability to comply voluntarily, there were penalties assessed in this case by the DEP and by the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. But it's not all doom and gloom out there. There are many conscientious companies and contractors. These two sites are permitted through our office under GP5, utility line crossing, and GP8, temporary road crossing. These sites are following their 105 permits and erosion control plans really well. You notice how the utility right-of-way on the left narrows at the stream crossing, minimizing the disturbance to the riparian area only to what is needed for the stream bridge crossing and installing the utility. You can actually see in the middle of that picture where the utility trench was dug through, and the riparian vegetation to the right is obviously undisturbed. And this extends 50 feet from the stream edge. There's 2 trees farther up the right of way after the bridge crossing to minimize that disturbance. Perimeter erosion controls in both cases are in place at the top of the bank. The immediate stream bank is stabilized with erosion control blanketing for more protective erosion control. Following these types of inspections, the permittee responsible party would get a clean bill of health, so to speak, and they would not have any compliance assistance measures, and we wouldn't necessarily follow up for inspection besides 6 months to a year, just routine inspection, checking in again. Finally, our office, we perform outreach and education under our delegation. We accomplish this in a variety of ways. First, we have staff that are invited to speak at a variety of other organizations, events, and conferences. For examples, staff has spoken at local university students, trade groups, sportsmen's groups, nonprofits, and municipalities on 105 related topics. In our office, we maintain pamphlets, fact sheets, handouts for public information and education, and they're also available on our website, accdpa.org. I'd invite and encourage everyone participating to peruse our website. We're currently building out a digital materials section for our regulatory delegations. These can be found under events and education, resources, regulatory resources. Currently, we have 4 recorded webinars up and presentations and 6 fact sheets and permitting guides that are available. We're going to continue to build this resource in the months to come and hopefully years to come. Annually, we do hold a 2-day E&S workshop, with day 1 being for developers, designers, and engineering consultants. Day 2 is held for construction contractors that work on these sites and permits. While the workshop primarily focuses on our NPDES and 102 erosion control programs, the audience for our 105 regulatory program is substantially similar in the development community. And each day we include several dam safety, waterway management focused presentations. This past February, we held our 2020 event at the Upper St. Clair Municipal Complex, and we had about 200 participants over 2 days. Okay, the main takeaways from today's webinar. Chapter 105, Dam Safety Waterway Management, specifically regulates obstructions and encroachments, things that change the course, current, or cross-section of streams, floodways, wetlands, and other bodies of water. The purpose, and we went over several examples on how this can be threatened if it's done improperly. The purpose is to protect safety, health, and welfare of people, and protect water quality and environmental rights. And the district maintains a robust program. We currently have 7 inspectors that cover both 102 NPDES development sites and 105 permitted sites and complaints. We divide the county up by municipalities for inspection responsibility area. From 2016 to 2018, we had the highest permit volume under 105 compared to other districts statewide. So we have a very active and busy program. On the education and outreach side, again, we're building out our webinars and information on our website. Do check out that and our social media pages. And also other conservation districts throughout the state produce a lot of material that I recommend looking in the neighboring counties, Westmoreland, Washington, Beaver, Butler, for what they're up to. And we'll have more content uploaded to our website and webinars in the near future. Okay, we could take a few questions at this time.
That came into the group. If anyone else would like to add a question here, feel free to do so. So Matt, the first question that came in, does ACCD accept electronic submittal for general permits in 105?
Yes, we do. So there are 2 avenues really. Currently, DEP does have set up through Greenport e-permitting for Chapter 105 general permits. So there's that avenue for electronic submission. And during these strange times we're in, we've been working at home since March the 16th due to COVID. We have also set up our own electronic permitting avenue using Google Drive. And there's information about that on our website, and in any of our employees, their email signature tag should have a link that describes our electronic permitting procedure.
Great. The next question that came in for you, Matt, is what is the best way for a complaint or concern to be communicated to ACCD?
Sure. Whether it's 102 or 105 related, you can call our main office number that's on our website, 412-241-7645. Also, we have a main email inbox, conserve@accdpa.org. If you've worked with an employee here before, another inspector, you can also email them directly.
All right, and the questions are rolling in. We probably have time for one more, do you think, Matt?
Yeah, sure, we can do one more.
All right, so I'll take this question that I kind of had myself and see a lot of times on individual homeowners' properties. Is a footbridge crossing a stream covered by general permit?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a nuanced question. It could be covered under GP7. We've done that in the past after speaking with DEP for things like park trails and that kind of thing. It's also potentially, if it's a much smaller drainage area under 100 acres, it could potentially qualify for a permit waiver. But given that you meet all of the conditions of the general permit 7, yes, we've permitted footbridges and trail bridges under that before.
My own additional follow-up to that question is, do you need one to repair a stream on your own property or repair a bridge on your own property?
It depends. So all these 105 permits, they authorize not only the construction, but the long-term operation and maintenance. In fact, for all of them, you have to perform operation and maintenance, especially for something like a bridge, because if it becomes dangerous or clogged, it could send something downstream that could endanger other property. Or if it completely clogs, like some of the examples I showed, it could back water up on somebody. So if you have a permit for that bridge, the first thing I would do is check your permit and the permit conditions, because they authorize operation and maintenance. If you do not have a permit for that bridge and you can't find one, a good place to check is emap.pa.gov. It is a user-friendly interface with a map of PA DEP permits. If you did not have one and you were replacing or rebuilding, yes, you would need a permit for that activity. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming. Thanks for the questions. I will look through the group chat and follow up with some people just through email, but this will conclude our webinar today. Again, sincere thanks to everybody that attended, and do check out our website and our social media pages for more to come in the near future. Thank you.